All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham Yahabushai, Bahasham Rakakwadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth through will. And I'm going to go into Song of Songs, or the Songs of Solomon. All right, chapter 2. I had seen this video, but right now, because of this storm and, everything that's going on, it's not actually allowing me to play that video. Okay, but it was on the History Channel, and it was about UFOs being reported, you know. So as I watched that video, I was also reading Songs of Solomon, and I came across chapter 2, which I have read before, but I never actually, never really hit me the way that it did, So let me just go briefly over it. This is Songs of Solomon chapter 2, or Songs of Songs chapter 2, verse 4. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. Strengthen me with raisins, refresh me with apples, for I am faint with love. Okay, and those raisins and apples is what we're being strengthened with right now. This word, this truth, okay, through the mercy and the faith of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and the love that He has for His people. Okay, even in the 1611 version of King James, okay, the book, even when you read, because usually it'll have like a little description of what the chapter is going to be, So when you look on the top, it says the mutual love of Mashiach and His church, which goes from verse 1 all the way to verse 7, So that's the mutual love that Yahweh Shai has for His church, and then Yahweh the Most High has for all Israel, which is the same love. So it says, verse 6, his left arm is under my head and his right arm embraces me. Okay. When I was reading this, it reminded me of, the left-handed spirits and the right-handed spirits, and how Job had to go through tribulation, had to go through times of trouble. It was under the head of Job, it happened to him. Okay. But his right hand embraced me, Yahweh Shem Yahushai allowed Job to come out of it, and that's what's going to happen to the elect. The elect are going to go through things, especially in the time of trouble that we're heading towards, But if the right arm or the right hand of Yahweh Shem Yahushai is with you, like it says in Daniel's 12, in Daniel's 12, Michael the great prince, which standeth for the people of thy children, or for the children of thy people, which are the Israelites. So verse 7 says, daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field, do not arouse or waken love until it so desires, until He desires it, until the Most High says He's going to come back. We're not to be giving a charge, let's move to Israel now, or any of that, any notion of that sense, So I'm reading it off of the NIV, and I have the KJV right next to it. But I'll read in the KJV. It says, I charge you, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, by the roes and by the hens of the field, that ye stir not up, nor awake my love till He please. You see, in those, what is it called? The hens of the field, okay, or Salaka, ye daughters of Jerusalem. It's not specifically talking just about the women, okay? We are the women of the Most High, We're the bridegroom and the bridemaid, or the bride. It's not the bridesmaid. The bride and the bridegroom. Okay, the bridegroom being Yahweh Shai, and the bride being Israel. You have it in, I believe it was Isaiah, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Isaiah 61, where it says that He will seize. Let me see here, Salak. He will seize the myrrh. Isaiah 61:10, it says, I will greatly rejoice in Yahweh. My soul shall be joyful in my power, for He hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness. As a bridegroom decketh himself with ornaments, and as a bride adorneth herself with her jewels. Okay, so we're being adorned with our jewels, which is this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Okay, so as we're being adorned in in this wisdom, all right, in the true wisdom of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, as we're being adorned in that wisdom, okay, we're calling out to the Most High, but we know that He's not gonna wake up until He wants to. You know, He's not gonna come back until He wants to. So we don't give charge. Let's move to Israel or do this or do that. The main thing is this wisdom, knowledge, understanding, according to Isaiah 33. So we're not trying to wake Him up until He desires. We're not trying to see that salvation until the Most High comes back, which also proves. In Revelations 2, you have those Jews that say they are Jews and are not. Over there in Israel, you have those men that are saying, that they're the true, inheritors of the land. But if that was the case, they wouldn't have done it, through men. They would have been there through Yahweh Shem Yahushai, So they don't fulfill prophecy. So in Songs 2 and 8, it says, "Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills." Okay, listen, my beloved, here he comes. Okay, and that's probably going to be the title of the lesson. Okay, but in verse 8, in the KJV, it says, "The voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon the mountains, skipping upon the hills." Okay, and what are we supposed to be doing? We're supposed to be paying attention to the times that we're in. Okay, so if you listen to the voice of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, okay, then you know exactly what's about to take place. So this is Joel chapter 2, and let me start off at verse 1, if it lets me. Okay, it says, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand." Okay, so this is basically the same thing in Songs of Solomon or Songs of Songs chapter 2 and verse 8. Listen, my beloved, here he comes. How are we listening? Because we're paying attention to prophecy, being submerged into this word, which is the true baptism, according to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 17 all the way through 21. The new the new baptism, and according to the first book of Mark, the baptism is not the baptism, by water like John the Baptist did, but the baptism through the Spirit, which is waking up to this truth, just like John the Baptist did again, coming back as Abba Bivens. He turned the heart and he restored, like it says in, I believe, Revelations, I've been Revelations 10 and also 11, where, these men are supposed to come back. Revelations 10 and 10 through 11, where John the Revelator was supposed to come back, to prophesy. And the same thing with all these men, and that's what you see in the book of, what was it? Matthew the 11th chapter, I believe, Elijah that was for to come. That was John the Baptist, but later, I believe it was chapter 19, it talks about that he's supposed to come and restore, Well, it didn't have to be restored at that time. Right now is the time that it has to be restored. Why? Because we lost our way. And that's what happened through Abba Bivens, So we're blowing that trumpet in Zion. And when you go into the word Zion, it's a monument, okay? Which the elect are that monument, It says, verse 2, "A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness. As the morning spread upon the mountains, a great people and a strong hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them." That's talking about the missiles, okay? When those missiles come, okay, they're going to be, like it says, it's going to continue here, But it'll basically go into Songs of Solomon chapter 2, you know. So this is what we're saying. We're prophesying about the oncoming destruction. You know, we're having visions about it. You know, when I first came into this truth, man, I didn't really know anything about, you know, the missiles and stuff like that. You know, but I remember having a dream, you know, that I was just living a regular life, you know, just like Jake, just a regular life. And I went outside and I looked up and I saw the missiles coming. Okay. And I started running for my life. And eventually that blast radius caught up to me. You know, I had some faith, you know, I had some faith enough to make me, you know, do a hyper run, you know, keeping up with the blast radius. So you got to be running super fast, you know, and eventually the blast radius still caught up to me. So when I woke up in my dream, okay, I was back in the beginning of my dream. And since I was back in the beginning of my dream, I knew what was coming. So it was given to me to prophesy. So I started telling people, you know, there's going to be missiles coming. Missiles are coming. Nobody listened to me. They thought I was crazy. So I went ahead and just started running on my own. And it reminds me of Habakkuk chapter 2, you know, make a plain upon tables that he may run that readeth it. So, you know, as I ran, I was able to escape out of the missiles, you know. I was able to escape from the missiles and see a war that was coming, you know, which is representative of World War III, you know, but you're the one that has to run this race, man, you know, and that missile is basically how it's described here in verse 3. It says, a fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. Okay, it says, as the land of the Garden of Eden before them. So before the missiles hit, the garden is like the Garden of Eden. All right, when you go into that word Eden, it means pleasure. Okay, which I can't go into it, you know, due to the storm. You got the internet going all slow. So let me see if I can. Eden, Idan, which is pleasure, you see? And that's what you see now. Okay, the land of pleasures. Okay, you have, I believe it was in the book of either Thessalonians or Timothy, where it says, I believe it was Timothy, she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth. It might have been Titus, you know, but she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she liveth, you know. So it says, and behind them a desolate wilderness. So after they hit, all right, the place is going to be desolate. And that's basically what I saw in that dream. It says, yea, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is the appearance of horses. And as horsemen, so they shall run, or so shall they run. Okay, and that represents power. Because nowadays, it's, you know, your country is measured by power according to the nuclear weaponry, all right, or arsenal that you possess. Okay, it says, like the noise of chariots on top of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Okay, so that's still talking about the ICBMs. Okay, but notice how it says, like the noise of chariots on the top of mountains shall they leap. Okay, and the mountain represents governments. Okay, so from one government to another, these missiles are going to be shot. Also in Jeremiah 50 and also Jeremiah 51, it goes into the archers, the bows, the arrows, all right, and the desolation of Babylon, which is America, you know. So back in Songs chapter 2 and verse 8, it says, the voice of my beloved, behold, he cometh leaping upon mountains, skipping upon the hills. Okay, so that's the army of the Most High. He made Esau, Edom, create these weapons of mass destruction in order for it to fall back on his head. And that's Job chapter 20. You know, it goes into that, which actually, you know, I should probably start just getting the precepts off of the book, because it'll be a lot easier. So let me actually go to Job. This is Job chapter 20. And let me start off, let me see. Job 20 and 19. Because he hath oppressed and hath forsaken the poor, because he has violently taken away a house which he builded not. Surely he shall not feel quietness in his belly. He shall not save of that which he desired. There shall none of his meat be left. Therefore shall no man look for his goods. Okay, because of that destruction that's coming, it's going to come upon his own head, you know? So skipping down to verse 23, when he is about to fill his belly, the Most High shall cast his fury upon him, and shall rain it upon him while he is eating. He shall flee from the iron weapon, and the bow of steel shall strike him through. When you go into that word iron weapon in verse 24, it actually says missile. Okay? It actually says missile. So in Revelations, where it talks about 200 million or 200,000 arrows, okay, or 200,000, is talking about 200 million missiles. Okay? It says, so again, verse 8, listen, my beloved, look here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills, which is the same thing as skipping or leaping, you know? So that's talking about the missiles. And in verse 9, it says, my beloved is like the roe or a young hart. Okay, so when you go to a deer, okay, I went to interesting facts about deer, which are male deers, okay? It says a male deer is called a buck, but some larger males are referred to as stags. Let me see, a younger deer is called a fawn, okay? So it goes into fawns, deers, stags, okay? So it says down here, it might have been this one. All right, it says during mating season or the rut, bucks will use their antlers to fight over does. The winner is the buck who manages to overpower the other. Red deer can be heard roaring in the rut to attract females. And that's the roaring that we're going to hear when Yahweh Shem Yahushai comes back. Okay, you saw how it said that they're going to hear what is it called? A loud shout, like the voice of an archangel. That's Yahweh Shem Yahushai when he's coming back. Okay, and he's coming back to get his does, okay, to get his female, which is the elect of Israel. All right, male and female, you know, but it's speaking parabolic. So it says, let me see here. Fawn, species of deer. There was another one. Let me see here. Khan is this one. It says, as deer's eyes are on the side of their head, they have 310 degrees vision. This is much more than humans who have 180-degree vision. Okay, and that's without them turning their head. You know, 310 degrees vision. It says deer also have very good night vision, which is particularly useful at dawn and dusk when they are most active. And Yahweh Shai said he's coming back as a thief in the night. Okay? Why? Because of you taking a home that did not belong to you. You know? Because of you taking the Israelites. You see? So when it says, Songs of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 9, my beloved is like a roe or a young hart. Okay? It's talking about a young stag, as it says in the NIV, you know, which is a male deer, okay, which fights for the doe. You know? So when Yahweh Shem Yahushai is coming back, he's coming back for his elect and to avenge them. You know? It says, he standeth behind our wall. He looketh forth at the windows, showing himself through the lattice. All right, and if you know what the lattice is, it's basically like decoration on the outsides. All right, you have your walls and you have the lattice, which is kind of like an extension of a wall, but it's also a fence at the same time. Okay, so it's kind of like those steel fences where you're able to look out of, you know, but it's still basically a wall, you know, but it's talking about parabolic talk of the windows and the wall. Now, what is that wall? Well, let me actually get it through here. Salakia. Let me see if I can actually just get it through the little book, you know. So now I want to go into that wall and what that wall represents. The Wan Ratazah, Lord willing, this is edifying, you know. But this is Zechariah chapter 9. Let me actually get it on this one. It seems to work a lot faster. This is Zechariah, Salakia. Zechariah chapter 9. And I'll start off at verse 11. It says, As for thee also, by the blood of thy covenant, I have set forth thy prisoners out of the pit wherein is no water. Turn ye to the stronghold, ye prisoners of hope. Even today do I declare that I will render double unto thee. When I have bent Judah for me, filled the bow with Ephraim, and raised up thy sons, O Zion, against thy sons, O Greece, and made thee as the sword of a mighty man, Yahweh shall be seen over them, and his arrow shall go forth as the lightning, and as the Lord Yahweh shall blow the trumpet, and shall go with whirlwinds of the south. Okay, so when you go in verse 9, where it says, My beloved is like the roe or a young hart, behold, he standeth behind our wall. He looketh forth at the windows, showing himself through the lattice. So when you go into that word wall, okay, it's actually talking about a chariot, you know? It's kathal, which literally means a house, okay? It literally means a house. And who is it going to house? It's going to house the gathering of the inmates, okay? The gathering of the inmates. And when you go into that word inmates, it's talking about a patient or a prisoner, a person confined to an institution such as a prison or a hospital. Okay, in a hospital, you know, it goes into, you know, something else, you know, which goes even deeper into what we are. We are the prisoners of hope, as scriptures say, you know, and that's in, let me get this, it's Philemon chapter 1 and verse 1. Philemon 1 and 1. Paul, a prisoner of Yahushua HaMashiach, and Timothy our brother, unto Philemon our dearly beloved and fellow laborer. Okay, if you're a fellow laborer, you're also a fellow prisoner for this gospel, for this truth, you know? So, you know, throughout this this chapter, Paul keeps referencing being a prisoner unto this truth, you know? Philemon 1 and 13, whom I have retained with me, that in thy stead he might have ministered unto me in the bonds of the gospel. Okay, so your bond, all right, to this gospel, you know. So verse 23, there salute thee Epaphras, my fellow prisoner in Mashiach Yahushai. You know, so we're prisoners of hope, you know, and that's in Zechariah, back in Zechariah chapter, was it Zechariah chapter 5? In verse 1, it says, Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. Okay? And now we're going into the flying roll, you know, which is the same thing we see in Songs of Solomon chapter 2. You know, because we are those prisoners of hope. We're inmates. Okay, so it says as gathering inmates. So that house or that wall is going to gather the inmates. Okay, and it says behind our wall, he looketh forth out of the windows. Chalan, which is an actual window, if it lets me go into it. Salakia. I don't know what's going on. We'll let it load, you know. But that wall in the windows represents the chariots of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, you know. So Zechariah 5:3, then he said unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For every one that stealeth shall be cut off on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off on this side according to it. Okay, because in the kingdom of heaven, we're gonna have chariots, but they're not gonna be, you know, like they are when they come here on this side, you know. So that curse that goes about the earth is talking about the chariots, okay, which are basically taking account. All right, the eyes of the Most High are upon that sinful kingdom, you know, which is the chariots. The chariots are watching everything that Esau Edom is doing, and they're taking account of it and telling it to the Father, Yahweh, you know. So whenever he comes back, he has basically all the paperwork, you know, so to speak, of all the wicked things that Esau Edom has laid upon the earth, you know. So in verse 4 it says, and I will bring it forth, saith Yahweh of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, okay, which is Esau Edom, you know, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and it shall remain in the midst of this house, or of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and with the stones thereof. You see, so Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is coming back with those chariots. And like it says in 2nd Ezra's chapter, I believe it was chapter 13 when it goes into it, you know, the chariots that are coming, they're coming here to destroy, man. You know, they're coming here to gather the elect, according to chapter 2. And chapter 13, they're here to turn against the heathen, okay? And Yahushua said, you know, he's coming here to start a fire, and what if it already be kindled, you know? Because when Yahushua comes back, there's already going to be a war going on through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, you know? So now let me go to Ezekiel chapter 1. And let me just start off at verse 4. It says, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding in itself, a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, out of the midst thereof, a fire. You see? So what Ezekiel saw was a whirlwind, which is code name for a chariot, okay, a UFO. The same thing with a cloud, okay, or a flying roll. You know, these are things descriptive of a UFO, okay, and I'll go into that. And I have a couple of pictures, you know, that I want to go into, because you have ancient painters, okay, which drew what Ezekiel saw, and it would literally draw a ring and then another ring, you know, making a sphere. So it doesn't really make any sense, you know, for the Most High to be so full of knowledge and make, you know, a chariot be just a ring. Okay, so I'll go into that, Lord willing. So it says, verse 5, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, and every one had 4 faces, and every one had 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, as the sole of the feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. And they sprinkled like the color of burnished brass. And they had the hands of a man under their wings and their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Okay, this is talking about the angels and the power that they carry. Okay, it says, and their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went every one straight forward. Okay, so it's not like a vehicle or like a car, you know, but it is a vehicle, Salakia. It's not like a car or a truck, but it is a vehicle of the angels, you know. Everywhere they put their mind into going is exactly where the chariot goes. And that's why it's so fast when you see those UFOs on video. And like I said, I wish I was able to show you that video I was looking at. If I remember, I'll put it in the description, you know. But it says, as for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of men, and the face of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side, and they four also had the face of an eagle, okay, which represents their power. It says, thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. 2 wings of every one were joined, one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward, whither the spirit was to go. You see, so they were controlled, the chariots were controlled by the spirit of the angels. It says, and they went, and they turned not when they went. And as the likeness of the living creature, their appearance was like the burning coals of fire. Okay, that living creature is talking about the chariot, which seems to be alive. You know, one of the Native Americans' prophecy that was given to them, okay, was that they would see. How does the prophecy go? They would see people inside of, was it bugs? I think it was people inside of bugs, or people inside of living creatures, you know, riding inside of living creatures to get from one place to another. And when the Native Americans saw what it, you know, when it actually came to pass, it was talking about vehicles. Okay, when people were using vehicles to get from one place to another, you know. So that was one of the prophecies. Also, it was upon black charcoal, or upon charcoal, or something of that nature. You know, I have to go back and research it. You know, but I had heard this a long time ago. You know, that one of their prophecies was men riding inside of living creatures. Okay, and those living creatures came alive only because of the people that rode them. Okay, which is the chariots. You know, so it says, and like the appearance of lamps, and it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Okay, which is what's gonna abduct us. You know, out of the chariots is gonna come this light, which is likened unto lightning. Okay, and it's gonna take us up, beam us up. You know, so it says, and the living creature ran and turned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. So that's how quick those chariots are, the so-called UFOs, you know? And that's why you have so many videos on YouTube of people seeing them and people freaking out, you know? So Ezekiel 1:15, now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creature with his 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their works was like unto the color of beryl. And they 4 had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as if for a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Okay, so I want to go into that. A wheel in the middle of a wheel is a bearing. Okay, if you've never seen a bearing, okay, it's basically a representation of a UFO. Okay, and you can just see these bearings, and they represent that. They truly look like so-called UFOs. Okay, so the wheel representing the other wheel. One wheel can stay straight and the other wheel can turn, which is like a whirlwind. Okay, and if it's high up in the heavens, okay, it looks like a cloud. You know, so just by seeing these bearings, you can get a feel or an understanding of what Ezekiel was talking about. A wheel inside of a wheel. You know, a bearing. So when you go to the UFOs and you see a picture like this one, that's a wheel inside of a wheel. Why do you think whenever they have representations of UFOs, they have it spinning one clockwise and one counterclockwise, or one part standing still and the other part spins? You know, because it's descriptive in the book of Ezekiel. You know, and here's the chariot beaming up. You know, there's the light of the chariot, which looks, you know, almost identical to one of these bearings, man. You know, so that's basically what Ezekiel saw here in chapter 1. You know, the wheel in the middle of a wheel. It's like a bearing, you know, and it also creates energy. Okay. Whenever you spin a wheel inside of a wheel, it creates energy, you know, which is what the UFOs use. It says Ezekiel 1:17, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. Right? Because you look at these chariots and they don't need to turn like a boat needs to turn. Okay? You can see when a boat turns. You can't really see when a chariot turns because every way is the right way. You know? You can't really see when it turns. It just looks like it goes straight, you know, wherever it goes. Okay? And it goes at extreme speeds. You see? And this picture right here looks just like, let me see, where is it? It's up here. It looks like this one right here, man. You know? So it says, verse 18, as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. All right, so now we're going into the eyes of the bearings or of the rings. Okay, when you look at this chariot over here, let me see, it's actually down here. When you look at, where is it at? Salakia. It's not that one. This one. When you look at this chariot, okay, you can see, all right, you can see those holes. All right, you see the holes, and those are the eyes that it's talking about. So now let's go to the word Latis. At the one Ratazah, if you know it allows me. So while that loads up, let me go back to Songs of Solomon, Salakia, verse starting out from verse 8 again. Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. And when we see, you know, the RFID, the MOB, Jacob's Trouble, and we finally hear about World War III, we know that the end is nigh. That's when we're going to start looking up into the heavens for that salvation, you know? And it's going to be in that nick of time that we're going to be saved, as well as this place be destroyed, you know? So it says, verse 9, my beloved is like the gazelle or the young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. You know, so it's not letting me look it up. But like I said, you know, when you look up the lattice, okay, it's like a wall, like a wooden fence, okay? And, you know, it goes diagonally, you know, and it has holes. It basically looks just like this chariot, you know, the lattice. It basically looks like the chariot. And that's what it's talking about in Songs of Solomon chapter 9, you know. So gazing through the windows is the same thing that Ezekiel saw when those men, all right, had many eyes, you know. So it says, verse 18, Ezekiel 1:18, as for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. You know, so they were full of eyes, just like that chariot that I showed. So continuing here, it says, my beloved spoke and said to me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. You know, so let me go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, and I'll start off at verse 5. It says, not in the lust, I believe it was 1 Thessalonians, let me see. It's actually 15. 1 Thessalonians 4:15. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, you see. It says, and with the voice of the archangel and with the trump of the Most High, and the dead in Mashiach shall rise first. Okay, so the people that died, the martyrs for Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, are going to be called up into the chariots, and their body's going to be changed according to the book of Corinthians in a twinkling of an eye. You know, it says, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds. Okay, and there goes that word clouds again, which is representative of the chariots of Israel. You know, in the book of Kings, when you had, I believe it was Second Kings, Elijah and Elisha, okay, whenever they were walking together, Elisha asked something of Elijah, and Elijah told him, you know, if you see me being taken up by the Most High, then you're going to get that double portion of the Spirit, you know. So Elijah was called up, you know, they were split up. Elijah was called up, and Elisha said, my father, the chariots of Israel, okay, which are the so-called UFOs, you see. So it says, verse 17, then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words. You see, so going back to Songs of Songs or Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 10, my beloved spoke and said unto me, arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. You see, so all this stuff that's getting ready to happen, man. That's when we're supposed to look up. You know, look up. How does it go? Let me see if I can find it just by this. Let's see. Lift up your head. There we go. You know, and in the time that Yahweh Shai was taken, okay, you had the angels say, ye men of Galilee, why marvel ye at this Yahweh Shai? For this same Yahweh Shai, that in the same manner that Yahweh Shai went up, he's going to come back down, which is what? Through the UFOs, you know. So Lord willing, if it allows me, we can go back and forth. If not, I'll just read it. Luke 21. Let me see. Salakia. Let me start off at verse 25. Luke 1 and 25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars. And you had that, there was an obelisk that was found, I believe last week. There was a random obelisk that was found, and it said, look up into the moon, in a different language, you know, look up into the moon, which the moon, the sun, the stars, they were all set there for a reason and for seasons, you know, for signs and for seasons. So it says, and therefore, and there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the roaring and the waves roaring, which is happening right now. You know, that's how we know we're getting closer and closer. Men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming up on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. Okay, and that's talking about, you know, World War III, okay, the time of trouble that's coming. All these things, men's hearts will fail them, which is heart attacks, you know, because of how terrible it's going to get. It says, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Okay, so that cloud is talking about a UFO, a chariot, you know. So he's coming back with power and great glory, just like it says in Isaiah 47, and I believe it was verse 6. No, verse 3. Isaiah, let me actually get it. Let me see. Salak. Isaiah 47 and verse 3. Thy nakedness shall be uncovered, yea, thy shame shall be seen. I will take vengeance. I will not meet thee as a man. You see, so Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is coming back for destruction. You know, that's why in the first verse of Isaiah 47 it says, come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground, there is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for there shall no more be called tender and delicate. Okay, which is talking about the destruction of Babylon, which according to Psalms 137 is Esau's reign, you know. And we know that after Esau's reign, in 2nd Ezra 6 and 9, Jacob's reign comes after, you know. So Luke 21 and verse 27, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And that's what the angel had told the apostles, you know, marveling at Yahushua being taken up. In that same fashion, Yahushua is coming back, you know, with the hosts of heaven. It says, verse 28, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. Okay, so whenever these destructions start taking place, Yahweh Hashem Yahushai is going to take care of us, you know, which is the salvation that we're waiting for. This is Deuteronomy 33 and verse, let's knock it out, Deuteronomy, it's Exodus chapter 33. It's lucky. I think I'm mistaken. I think it was Deuteronomy. Yep, Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 26. There is none like unto the God of Jeshurun, which is Israel, who rideth upon the heaven in thy help, and in his excellency on the sky. You see? So those chariots that are coming, okay, those are chariots that are up in the skies, man. You know? Those are the curses that go about the earth. Why? Because when it comes back, it's going to destroy. It says Luke 21 and 28 again. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. You know, so us looking unto this destruction, like Yahweh Hashem Yahushai said, woe unto those that desire the day of Yahweh. To what end is it to you? You know, so if you're not according to this gospel, according to this truth, what you're going to see is the opposite end of the good thing that's coming with these chariots, with Yahweh Shai, with salvation, you know, which is going to be the destruction, according to Jeremiah chapter 8. You know, so I hope that was edifying. And with that, I want to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakakwadash, the honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.